So I missed you guys.
I missed you too, James. It's been
Did you go on vacation and I didn't get informed, or?
Well, technically, I went on a medical vacation from my surgical procedure that I had. So
that, I guess.
top secret medical procedure.
Yes, again, for anyone listening, nothing super serious, but I did get some narcotics out of the situation. So.
He's a cyborg now.
Yeah, he has a
I'm part
bionic
robot.
nose. Yeah,
And Stu had his procedure that also secret.
yep.
He's a woman now.
I mean, inside I always was. So now
All
the
truly great men
exterior
are.
matches the interior.
So you guys having a good summer so far?
Yeah,
Busy.
it's pretty good.
Busy summer. It's the
Yeah.
busiest summer I've had in a while, unfortunately. I haven't had a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, Steve's been working a lot. I think
Gotta make hay when the sun shines, baby.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I started my new job this week, so I was for the first time in God, I think it's probably almost 20 years. I got out at 4:00 on a day.
Nice.
And I can't even tell you, 'cause, again, for those of you who may be new, I'm a nurse and I was a paramedic. So those are some long shifts. So it was weird getting home and it was feeling like there was sunlight and I had time to do things.
There were still cartoons on TV.
Yeah.
You feel like you called in sick for school or something.
Yeah. Feel like I'm being naughty. So, all right. So, did you guys pick up anything new recently?
Gonorrhea.
Musically speaking, sir.
Oh.
I mean, I assumed you already had that.
For years. I did actually pick up something. Only one record, but I'm going to talk about it a little later in the show.
That's fine.
So I'm just going to pass the ball off to you guys.
Yeah, I really, I can't remember what I talked about last time.
Are you feeling vibes for any particular genre of music currently?
Oh, rock and roll, as always, baby.
Yeah. No punk music for you today?
I mean, punk.
I mean, that
Punk
falls in the
rock
rock
is-
and roll
it's rock and
category.
roll.
Listen,
Yeah.
Billy Joel said it's all rock and roll.
It's all
It's
rock
still
and roll.
still rock and roll. I messed up
Still
that
rock and roll.
lyric.
I did pick up a couple things, even some of them literally right before I came over here, because Steve said that he was probably running a few minutes late. So I took that to heart and was like, okay, well then I'm just gonna go over to Goodwill and look at stuff.
Which Goodwill did you go to?
The physically closest one to your home.
Oh, okay. That's where you picked up those records. Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice, man. All right.
So
They usually got a lot of bogus stuff in there. So.
oh yeah, there's the normal stuff like Lawrence Welk and stuff, and I
Yeah.
never would have probably went in there and looked if it wasn't for the fact that Steve's like, oh, I'm probably going to be late. So I'm just going to move this mic over for a second so I can grab those things.
I'll take the opportunity to say one other time I have seen some really good records at that particular Goodwill, and it was there was a copy of 2112 by Rush, and
That's crazy.
I know, and
That's such an iconic album.
I left it because I was like, I have 2 copies of it already. Actually, I gave one away. Now I only have 1 copy, but I don't know. I sort of felt like I'm going to leave this for someone else to be stoked to find.
Yeah, I did not choose to do that today. I found a record, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and I kept it because I'm just like, you know what? I'd rather give this to somebody that I like.
That's I think that's legit too, man.
Yeah. So one of the first ones I got was it's a 7-inch. It's a Lou Rawls and Seekers split 7-inch because Steve loves
split
those
7 inches,
7
baby.
inches. On one side we got Lou
Love me
Rawls.
them splitters.
Breaking My Back by Lou Rawls. And then the other side is the Seekers, Island of Dreams. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know either of those songs, but I was like, I heard Stu talk about Lou Rawls before, so I'm like, I should pick that up. Kind of an odd one that I got, and I showed that to these guys. It's almost like a cardboard record. It's a 7-inch, and it's got a drawing of what looks, would you guys say 60s?
Man, 50s or something. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it might even be 50s.
That's it almost looks like a family circus style cartoon.
It does. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that. But yeah, now that you mention it.
In that vein.
Yeah,
we'll put some pictures up on the socials.
I've
on this,
actually
'cause
never seen a record like this
it's-
before. I think it's
nifty.
a cool find.
I haven't either, and it was it says Jack Spratt, and there's a banner on top. There's a dad sitting at a sitting at a table with a record, and then there's a a boy who looks like he's dunking a cat in a well.
Yeah, so this is all about like how do you dispose of unwanted kittens?
And the kitten looks happy about it.
Well,
So. Oddly
that's how you
enough.
Thinks
convince
he's
your
getting a
child.
bath.
Yeah,
Yeah, because as we all know, cats love it.
Maybe the cleanest puss around.
And then it says at the bottom, Ding Dong Bell, the Record Guild of America, Inc., New York City. Then the other side, there is a shoe, like the old woman who lives in a shoe kind of thing. And it says, there was an old woman, Little Jack Horner.
Jack
Horner. And
these must all be nursery rhymes that are on this.
yeah,
I
the
had to
cat
really
one
pick
does
up.
it. I can't think of what that one would be. And then there's a kid who looks like he's grinding a rock and making a fire.
I don't know what that one
You'll
is.
have to listen to it.
So
and,
he's
yeah.
doing arson. So, I mean,
I do recall that Jack Sprat could eat no fat, and his wife could eat no lean.
but maybe that rhymes with cat. So maybe I don't know.
Jack Sprat bought a new cat. That's pretty fat. Hey, I'm just working on this because my understanding is that we're enjoying the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
You gotta
I'm trying to get in the spirit here.
You gotta steal my thunder on
Sorry,
that, don't
dude.
you? So another one I got, I'm like, oh hey, Glenn Campbell, and then I'm like, Glenn Campbell records are super freaking easy to find and generally not very valuable. This is a 7-inch, and I saw Love Light. I'm like, oh okay, and I was about to put it back, and then I flipped it over, and it said Rhinestone Cowboy.
Oh, that's a classic.
That is hands down Glenn Campbell's probably best song.
I'll say this though, like it's easy to get in the mindset that something like a record or an artist is going to be around forever because you see it all the time. But I tell you, if you like it, pick it up, even if it seems ubiquitous, because like someday it will be gone. Like I've gone through that a few times in my life, and I was actually just talking about this with my wife the other day about certain books. Like I used to see in used bookstores all the time, and specifically, I don't know if you're like fantasy fans, but Fritz Leiber wrote this like Swords Against Lankmar, this Lankmar series. You guys are just giving me blank looks. Swords and Deviltry. Anyway,
Nerd.
I used to just see them all the time, and I liked them, but like you sort of felt like I could just pick up a copy anytime, and like they're gone now. Like
that kind of reminds me of when I was re-listening to our last episode with Matthew. How do you say his last name? Slehetka. I didn't want to butcher his name. So, Matthew, if you're listening, I apologize.
I'm sure he's not used to it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's never happens to him with that name. But he was talking in the interview about how different albums are popular in different areas, and then certain albums will kind of fall by the wayside in other areas. And I have to imagine that probably happens with books as well.
I bet. Yeah.
Like I'm sure like if we all got in a car right now and drove to LA, we'd probably find completely different records and, things like in their junk bin that we never see around
Right.
here.
And people there are like, oh man, Rat again?
Yeah.
Like,
Rush.
if only I could find some Lawrence Welk.
Yeah.
How many Youth Brigade albums can there be in LA? Goodness.
Be like, ew, Mitch Miller. I wish I had some Mitch Miller.
Yeah.
So I do already have this, but I found a copy of Alice Cooper's $1 Billion Baby. Great album.
Classic.
And I got this for like $2. The sleeve on the outside, what would you say this is? Is probably like a G.
If that, man. I mean,
It's pretty beat.
That spine's like
G
pretty
minus.
torn, right?
Yeah, G minus. But the record, I would say, conservatively speaking, is like VG plus maybe. Like the vinyl is actually pretty good because you can.
That's the most important part.
It is because like you can find a copy later where the jacket's nice and the record's all jacked up, and those are cheap, that type of thing. So I was like, maybe
Some people only collect for the jackets, though.
really.
Did you know that? Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know
that.
Yeah, actually, for some records, I mean, that's what, for a long time, that's what was considered the valuable part.
Really?
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm talking, when I was a teenager, I remember that being a thing. But, like, the kind of record you got there in your hands, like, that is what basically got me into record collecting, because it was like finding music for cheap and being able to go home and try it out. I wasn't paying whatever $12 for a CD. It was like $1 or something for a record. Someone from the 70s wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like this record, like half the time, like flippers, they'd probably easily at least charge $10 or more for this, just because it's Alice Cooper. So, and then kind of the other thing I got that was kind of interesting. So I went in there and I think you talked about this on our episode previously. If you've ever seen like what look like picture albums that are full of records. So I got there and they had several binders full of records, and I'm talking these are probably, I think some of the records that were in there were easily from the late 30s, I want to say, and 40s. Now I went through every one of these like picture albums, and I was taking these out, and these are all 78s, so these are those big, thick, probably 200 gram or more records, are like the dinner plates.
Yeah.
And then I was going through them, and there's a lot of crap I didn't want, but then there was things I did want, like Ella Fitzgerald, Bing Crosby featuring Les Paul. Les Paul, the inventor of the electric guitar and prolific country music artist from Wisconsin.
And he also actually is one of the fathers of multi-track recording.
Yeah. Just an icon, not alone in music in general, but especially in our state. So I picked and choose and put the things that I wanted into one of the binders, and then I get up to the counter and she counts this entire binder as one item.
What a sweet lady. So I don't know if you know this, James, but what you have in your hands there is actually why we call record albums, where because of these like physical albums you have, because records used to just be one or two songs on each side, and people would put together an album like you have in your hands. And then when the long playing record came out, they called it an album, because people were used to calling a collection of songs. So it'd be like a full album on one long playing record. Yeah. I read that somewhere.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that too, because it's kind of like one of those things like, I may have mentioned in the past that I used to work at a video game store, and when I was a kid and other video game systems came out, everything was a Nintendo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like whenever something's popular, they tend to just call it whatever the most popular one was.
Like a Kleenex or a
Q-tip.
You're like, when you go down to the southern part of the U.S. and it's like, well, I want a Coke. Well, what kind of Coke?
Yeah,
an orange Coke, a root beer Coke? It's just a Coke.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we all want to be easy with that stuff. So I did pick up a couple other things. I got a copy of the record company's All of This Life, because I was on Amazon and they were like clearancing out, and it was like $15.
I don't know them.
You check them out. They're actually going to be playing. I'm going to go see them in Milwaukee this weekend. Milwaukee's got this, I believe it's called a la carte at the zoo. So they're going to have all these local Milwaukee restaurants all kind of spread out throughout the zoo, and then you can try all these different foods out. And then these guys who have played Summerfest numerous times had announced that they were going to be headlining on Saturday.
So is this like if you go to the zebra exhibit, you can try a zebra steak, and at the monkey house?
Yeah.
Monkey brains.
That's totally it.
That's exotic. I like that.
Remember Faces of Death when they had the monkey at the table?
I remember that from Temple of Doom.
I've never watched that. I did a read up on that. Like about
I won't get real graphic in the picture.
Yeah, and I'm just, and then like the progression of the later versions and about how they were obviously,
they were fake.
Yeah,
I remember that being a big deal. Like when I was a kid, and like it was like this sort of forbidden tape at the video store to to rent. It was like
it is illegal in some countries still.
Yeah, I believe it.
I'm not surprised.
It's not really good for the soul.
No.
Yeah, so if you're a kid and you're listening to us, which I can't imagine you are, don't go watch that tape.
Yeah, don't go rent that tape.
Don't go on YouTube or anything, because it's probably on there. And then another interesting one, I think I had mentioned this in the last time we talked about Grails. There was a particular album, I believe it was originally released in 1999. It's actually Bone Thugs and Harmony, which is 1999 Eternal. Hadn't been repressed officially since the original run of it. Just a prolific kind of hip-hop album. And then Vinyl Me Please was doing a special version of it that was kind of like this red and white swirl. Absolutely, the vinyl's beautiful. It's probably one of my favorite visually looking records that I had seen in a long time. This album is really known for like a lot of really interesting like harmony techniques that wasn't prevalent in rap and hip hop music at the time. And I just remember when this album came out, God, it was on the radio that was just,
And you were high like every day.
no. Funny enough, back then I really was not into rap. It was like that's something that's come to me in the last few years. Very specific types, not like like I got a couple Snoop Dogg albums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I got that, and then if you've never checked out Vinyl Me Please, it's a subscription service specializing in high-end presses. They do repress a lot of things that you can't get anywhere else. They are a little on the expensive side. Like this double LP was shipping like $60, but like heavy cardstock, vinyl's perfectly flat, doesn't make a single extra sound when I put that needle down.
Ooh.
It is an immaculate pressing, and my
Then I'm out because that's the only reason I'm in it for the hiss
I like
and the pop.
pops and the snaps, and the Rice Krispies in there.
But I'm just really impressed because like it's flat, like
Yeah.
like they clearly did a good job with it. So if I was loaded, I would probably subscribe to their service more often. But you know what's a better service than that? The Old Soul Record Club.
Yes, it says indeed.
So I got that, and then just looking forward to the new Kendra Morris album that's coming up. I was telling these guys I think I'm going to probably run over to our local record shop, Eroding Winds, after this, because Easy Eye Sound, Dan Auerbach's record label's got a compilation that came out this last Friday with some new Black Keys songs on it.
Nice.
And so
Well, maybe we can make a field trip.
if you guys want to go with me, I'm totally down. But
I probably do not have time today. I have a tight schedule today.
Steve's a busy boy.
Getting ready. I got to get some crap done. I'm headed to Minneapolis tomorrow with the wife. We're going to go see Manchester Orchestra at the
Ooh,
Army
yeah.
and Jimmy Eat World as well. But I'm going for Manchester.
Are you going to bleed America?
I don't know. Is that a Jimmy Eat World reference?
Yeah, that was one of their.
I don't know.
That's
I don't
probably
know them
their
much.
most popular album that had their song, that popular one in the middle, was on it.
Oh, okay. I'd know it if I heard it. I'm sure. But
Yeah, and then
Can you sing us a few bars?
no, please.
I
please,
actually saw them in concert twice. One time was in Green Bay, and one time was in Milwaukee, I believe. Fact about that album, it came out kind of close to 9/11, like within a year or so of that. So when they started repressing it, like I think it was CD originally, like they took the Bleed America off of it,
Oh,
and it wasn't until many years later that they reintroduced that title to the album when it was being made.
crazy.
So
Are they good in concert? I've never. I've yet
now,
to see
gosh, I have not seen them in a very long time. They were wonderful when I saw them back then. Now I have listened to some of their newer music. I can't say that I really enjoyed it a lot. So I don't know.
Have there been bands like that for you that you've seen multiple times, but you didn't really intend to? Like, but they were just always playing with other bands that you were going to see?
No, I mean, every concert I ever went to where there was an opener, I'd say 9 times out of 10, I literally never saw that opening act ever again.
I think I saw Built to Spill 3 times and never intentionally went just to see. Then they're a great band. It was a good show, but it was funny. Like I just because they were from the area. When I lived up in the Pacific Northwest, but I saw them with Camper Van Beethoven. I think once just maybe at Capitol Hill Block Party, and one other time it was just
There was a solo artist that opened, like Butch Walker would have 2 opening acts, and I saw him play with American Hi-Fi, and then this other guy called Val Emmich, like Emmich. I have the ticket still at my house. Never saw him again, but he was a reoccurring character on the TV series Ugly Betty.
Oh, really?
And then I saw him in like a
That's
Calvin
interesting.
Klein commercial or something. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So funny enough. Anyway, that's all I got, guys. So want to start the show?
Let's do it.
Giddy up.
All right, what's up, everybody? This is your favorite podcast in the world, Just One More Record. I, of course, am James Thornton, and we are coming to you from Moonhot Media's famous studio,
World famous.
world famous, and I got the 2 coolest guys in the room.
Steve Main.
And
Stu McLean.
Stu McLean is the guy who always makes us sound so velvety smooth.
I want you to be smoother and smoother every week.
Smooth like chunky peanut butter. So, of course, we got a very special episode. It's actually going to be a multiple episode where we're going to talk about all things Mile of Music. So make sure you stay tuned for the continuing other parts of those episodes in the next, week or so. We're not exactly sure what our timetable is for the release of those other specials, but they will be soon, and we will get those out to you as soon as we can. So we got a couple things. First of all, just want to dive into the news as usual. So this first one, Dave and Central C's track Sprinter has become the first ever UK rap track to make it at 10 weeks at number 1. The significance of this is extra special because it occurred on August 11th, which on that same day in 1973 was the birth of hip-hop. So 50 years ago, a young, imaginative DJ by the name of Kool Herc rocked out at a modest party in a community room at a Bronx apartment building. This was like a back-to-school bash. He brought out his turntables and kind of laid the groundwork for what would become hip-hop. So of course, he was doing a lot of scratching, which we don't recommend.
I mean, get a record that you don't mind scratching.
I did see at one point when the exclusive company was still open. So Dr. Dre had an album, the Chronic. He had the Chronic, but then he also had the Chronic 2001. And I remember seeing an instrumental version of that only. And I asked someone about that. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that was for people to like scratch on.
That's pretty cool.
So I was like,
They must have special needles for that, I would think.
I don't think originally. I
Watched.
watched.
I mean, you just
Yeah. I watched a thing about DJ Kool Herc at one point, and originally they did not, but I think they do nowadays.
I would think so.
I mean, anytime they can come up with a way to specialize something and sell it to you for more money,
Yeah,
someone's going to
they're
do
gonna
it.
Yeah, and I think like there's a few people like big names that still do it. Like DJ Jazzy Jeff will actually still do shows where he's scratching and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of guys do. There's like a digital version you can do now, right? So you're not really scratching.
Yeah, if you look, they got like it's
but
almost
that's
like
so phony.
it's like a fake record.
Yeah, you got to scratch up your real records, man, if you mean it.
Yeah. I mean, next time
Commit.
Steve,
Damn it.
Next time we're over at Steve's and we're having some beers, we'll try that out.
No.
It was weird though. Like I remember watching, and
we could scratch with some Bing Crosby, maybe.
the 78s. My understanding what they would do actually was really interesting. Like originally, they'd let the record play, and they'd put their hand down on the record, stop it from spinning, and then they'd wind it back a little bit, and then they let it go again. And so it would be looping.
You've never done this?
No,
Oh.
I've never done that. I
mean, I'm not good at it, but I totally did that several times when I was younger. I just wanted to try it out, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't try it out, but watching them do that, and I was like, oh, that's actually super imaginative. If I was ever
you didn't try to like the old Motley Crue record, Shout at the Devil.
backwards?
Like I didn't have a reverse on my record player, so I just had to spin the whole thing backwards to see if I could
that's
hear
totally
Satan.
why I killed my mom. It's like,
I do have a copy of that album. That's one of my favorite records that I have, actually.
Yeah,
OG
it doesn't
copy.
work. The devil doesn't come out.
Oh, dang. I heard that
he doesn't even
have.
shout at you.
He doesn't even shout.
I heard that
he
does.
just whines incessantly.
I heard that does
No,
happen
don't wreck me.
when you play Chicago records, though.
Play those backwards.
Yeah. That was Satan's real band, was Chicago. So.
Well, I mean, Chicago is the shithole of the universe.
Ooh.
Wow,
But,
man.
Steve's opinions do not represent that of the rest of the cast of Just One
He's
More
entitled
Record.
to his opinion.
He
It's
is.
fine.
He is. All right.
Just this once.
Just this once. Just this one opinion. On the 8th of this month, a combination of drought conditions, hurricane winds led to some widespread wildfires in the Hawaiian island of Maui, displacing thousands of residents and killing 55 people. And you're asking me, how does this pertain to our music podcast? Well, Fleetwood Mac co-founder Mick Fleetwood also announced his restaurant, Fleetwood's on Front Street, was also lost in this disaster. So, of course, our heart goes out to the residents of Maui, and not so much Mick Fleetwood, because
he's probably doing all right, generally speaking.
Yeah, he's rich. So, I sent this over to Stu last night, actually. So, I guess on August 10th, they released the first footage of the trailer of The Angel-Headed Hipster, which is a documentary by director Ethan Silverman about Mark Bolan, the good old man from T-Rex and one of the most prolific artists in glam rock history. So, admittedly, I was working on these news last night, so I didn't get to watch it, and I've been dealing with this.
I'm glad to hear that. I actually didn't watch it yet either. I just thought it looked awesome, you know.
Oh,
that
line, we're all on the same page. I haven't watched it either.
Steve loves
Angel-Headed Hipster, I think, is a line from Howl by Allen Ginsberg, the poem. I'm pretty sure.
Could be.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, good news is that if you find yourself in a theater in the UK around September 22nd, you can watch it, or home entertainment on November 6th.
Okay, awesome.
So maybe we'll actually get around to watching it.
Let me ask you. You've like made a couple questions pop into my head during your news segment here.
Sure.
And so I'm going to take us off on just a little detour,
like we always do,
because just thinking about Mark Bolan. So.
I love Mark Bolan.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, my wife asked me, kind of out of the blue, we're driving the car. She's like, all right, just off the top of your head, who is the coolest rock musician that you can think of? Like, when you say someone is cool, like who in your mind represents the coolest rock and roller? It was a little tough for me.
That's a bold question.
And it's tough too, because, you know, when you say, like, cool can mean different things to different people. But I tend to go with, when she said that, a very kind of traditional idea of like what is cool. It's kind of like, you know, like a real look and a detached demeanor, maybe, like nothing's gonna, you know.
So what did you say to her?
So my picks, I threw a few out there. One was Mark Bolan, Elvis. To me, like, in fact,
I would say early
Elvis.
Early
Yeah,
Elvis.
absolutely.
Like,
early on, like,
he was
I
so
don't know if
disconnected
anyone
later.
can top him. And funny enough, a guy who always just struck me as cool was Joe Perry from Aerosmith, the guitar player.
I would agree with that, because he never needed to be the focus.
Yeah, he just always seemed like Joe Cool back there, like whatever. Yeah, so those were kind of like maybe the three that popped into my head. She was like, ew, gross, to basically all of them. But
I think she says that to you often about
ew,
many
gross.
things
yeah.
too.
You want to make sweet love, baby? Ew, gross.
Ew,
go away.
gross.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you? So in your guys' head, now that maybe I've tainted your thoughts here, but you know, who's cool? Like,
I'll try and do
cool?
three. I think as far as like just standard, like James Dean kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like Mike Ness. Like,
okay,
a top notch. Like, he's a cool cat.
Was he in the Monkees?
Social distortion.
No, I
think we need to
out.
start another podcast.
Dude, if he joined the Monkees, though, could you see him like
Oh
with
my
a Mickey
Lord, that'd be
Dolenz
great.
supergroup?
For my just like my idea of like the totality of what is cool, I would say Neil Peart would kind of fill that.
Interesting.
That's
so
a good cut.
awesome. I mean, he's intelligent. He's a great lyricist. He's
an idol of mine, but
like one of the best drummers, if not the best drummer ever. And in a completely different way, like I don't even know how to explain it. I think Greg Graffin, because he's just so goddamn intelligent and humble, and I
Okay.
think that's a pretty cool thing to be.
That's interesting. You chose intelligence as a factor for sure.
Oh yeah,
I did not. I often feel like, you know, guys who are cool maybe even aren't that smart. What they trade in is their coolness. Like that is their gift. But I do think being smart is cool, Steve.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's kind of a different interpretation of the word.
I'm going to say, like, the first one when you started talking about cool that jumped out to my head was Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. Yeah, like, it was something like he had a good attitude, and just having done the research for that previous segment that we did, and watching him kind of realize that he had no stage presence and kind of sucked, and then become just this prolific performer, and seeing him on stage and his look and everything like that. Like, I think like he, especially in like, what was that, the 80s, like was the bulk of their success was like to be that cool in a time when that wasn't cool to be making that kind of music. That was impressive in its own right. And then the other one for me, and this is going to kind of seem like an odd one when I say this, it's probably Angus Young from AC/DC.
Ooh.
So he had this just huge, like, obvious stage presence, and when he would play, like, he'd leave it all out there and just
It still does.
and just go to town. But then when you would see him out of that environment, like, totally different person. You never really hear anything, like, even back in the day, like, they didn't talk about like anything he got into. He was not a big attention seeker and things like that. He just came out and he just put it all out there, and then he went home.
Yeah.
And it was just something like, he's like, I got a job to do and I'm going to do it well.
You know who else is another person? This maybe seems pretty obvious too, but Jimi Hendrix.
That one did kind of hit me in the head there
Yeah.
too. I can't say that I feel like I know enough about Hendrix, like, as a person, to feel like I could say he was cool.
I think he developed he had a very flamboyant personal style that was emulated, drastically, in his wake. By other
Even when he
people
was still
and-
alive, I
yeah,
feel
that's
like
what I
everyone
mean,
wanted
yeah.
to be him.
Yeah. What's that line in that Pink Floyd song? He's like, I've got the obligatory Hendrix perm. Like, when even all the white guys were like trying to tease their hair up big like Hendrix. And
Well, even there was the bassist or guitarist that was in the band.
Noel Redding, yeah.
Yeah, he even looked like he was trying to be Jimi Hendrix at the time, and I was like that. And obviously, like, Bolin, just effortlessly cool. I didn't, oddly enough, like, I don't think Bowie was cool. Like, I love Bowie. Bowie's talented. Bowie was creative and he was ingenious.
Yep.
But I don't think he was cool.
I have to sort of agree. Like, I think I love Bowie too. Like, and
He was a nerd.
way more into his music even than T-Rex, who I like. But like, Bowie's depth is just dramatic compared to Mark Bolan, who was like actually fairly shallow, I think, in his I don't know. But yeah, I agree. Like Bolan, like I said, he traded in cool. Like, that was his currency.
And like, I don't really care for 99% of his music, but like Lou Reed's cool. Like,
Yeah.
you look at Lou Reed, his style, the way he dressed, the way he carried himself back in the day. Lou Reed was cool. I just don't really like his music.
Yeah, he's maybe 50-50, but the stuff I really like from Lou. So
Yeah, and I still maintain to this day, I think he would have got canceled nowadays. With the Walk on the Wild Side and stuff like that. Like, where he's
yeah,
like,
probably. So it's not the it's a look at that life that he was a part of. That is like not trying to project the more wholesome aspect. He was not about being wholesome, right?
No.
Like, yeah.
Actually, one more huge one just jumped in, and then I'll end it for me.
How did all these cool people get in rock and roll?
Deborah Harry.
Oh, Debbie Harry. Yeah.
That like.
It sounds more like you think she's hot than cool.
No, I'm gonna say this like straight up. Like, she would not have been my ideal kind of woman when she was back in the day, but just like watching her perform and stuff like that, she was just, in my mind, just awesome.
Yeah.
Just a way ahead of her time. And again, going back to hip hop, one of the earliest, recorded hip hop artists.
I think it's one of the worst raps ever.
It is. I'm not going to deny that, but still, she was just
Bad Vibe Freddy told me everybody's fly.
Yeah, just Blondie in general, just all those. I mean, I couldn't name a single other member of the band, but also talking about cool. So let's get back to the news.
Clem Burke.
Good segue. Blink 182's Tom DeLonge and Matty Healy of the band 1975 aren't going to be playing in Malaysia anytime soon.
Tell us why.
So the 1975 were performing their song Robbers at the August 4th Lollapalooza in Chicago. Maddie spotted Tom out in the crowd. He then stumbles his way off the stage, out into the crowd where the two would share a kiss. Tom would later write on Instagram, "I guess myself and the 1975 won't be going to Malaysia. Just a couple of dudes kissing during a phenomenal set at Lollapalooza." This is kind of like the next level in 1975's escalation of kind of everything with their kind of almost war with Malaysia, and on the political level. I don't know if you guys followed that at all. Kind of like
A little bit.
the short version of it. The human rights they rate Malaysia as being the second worst place in the world for was it I'm worried I'm gonna screw this up, LGBTQ plus folks, where like basically they're discriminated against. A lot of stuff's illegal. The government completely doesn't prevent any kind of discrimination against them. These people are getting assaulted and the government doesn't care. So at one point they were doing a show, like a festival there, and I think if I remember correctly, Maddie or one of them kissed another guy, and essentially got the whole entire festival canceled.
Jeez.
And then they actually kept their money, like Malaysia's money, and were just very blatant about.
I think I read that Malaysia is trying to sue them for like $2.7 million or something after this last incident.
Yeah,
or maybe it was from the first one.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. I knew Malaysia was kind of a dump for that reason, as far as human rights go. But I didn't know about the 1975's role in their little war with them. So all I got to say is fuck Malaysia.
There you go.
So, all right, guys, that's all I got for news. So I think Steve had some things he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to do a little recap of our big local music festival.
Oh, there was
music.
there was a music festival.
I vaguely remember that happening.
Oh, maybe that was the hydrocodone in me, but I don't.
James was at home comfortably numb.
Yeah.
Valid.
Did you listen to any Floyd while you were?
Side note. At one point in my life, I had to have a couple biopsies done on my thyroid, and my mom would come with me these 9 times that happened.
Oh, man.
To drive me home, and every single time on the way home we would listen to that song.
Comfortably numb.
Your mom's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah,
I've yet to meet her, surprisingly.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure at some point she calls me. Let's call her right now. No, see, she wants to come
on
over.
the phone right now. We have James Dorn's mother.
Yeah,
James Dorn. This is your life.
Yeah, she'd be like, "What is this? What are we? I'm not. You recording me? No, we're not going to open that can of worms.
This is a podcast.
Oh goodness. So all right, Mile of Music.
Mile of Music.
Mile 10.
So what is Mile of Music? Quick rundown on what Mile of Music is. Mile of Music is a 100% free festival located in our little town of Appleton, Wisconsin. Starting in 2013, this festival features bands from most every genre and is an only 100% original music festival.
No covers.
No covers allowed. You try to come in there and sneak in a cover, they find out about it, you're done. You won't play Mile of Music again. Very, very.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that they
stressed
stressed it being original, but I didn't know that they actively were like, "Yeah, you can't."
Yeah,
have it."
Oh,
It's like-
totally.
people are like one of the sets I saw was Kiola, it's Jordan Kiola, lead singer for the band Mo Loud and the Humble.
Did he cover Mo Lauda in the Humble?
He did, and he's like, oh, is this against the rules? But he's like, well, here, I'm bringing my band out. This is just now a Mo Lauda set, and he brought out his guitarist and his percussion, and his drummer, to kind of sit in with him.
Maybe Christopher Gold will get in trouble with that too.
Right,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So 100% original music there. There are many types of venues ranging from back alleyways, coffee shops, bars, large clubs to outdoor venues with some pretty large capacities.
And buses.
I didn't even mention that. Yep, they even do. And I just found out. I saw on one of my friends' memories of Mile 1. They were on the bus, like performance on the bus, and it was like now they actually have a Mile of Music bus, and it's kind of set up and painted, all decorated for it.
I think I've seen it. Obviously, I've never been on it, but I think I've seen that bus.
Yeah, I've heard. I've yet to go and hit one of those experiences because I've heard it's a pretty long wait to get on, and it's time management at this festival it's a different thing.
I'm surprised Rick Main, Steve's alter ego, when he's drinking, didn't just force his way on the bus.
He was the one on top of the bus. Speed or something.
Mild music.
Music sets are about 45 minutes with roughly a 20-minute turnover between acts. So things, they kind of keep going. You get, I think it's a good enough look at the artist or the band, but it also doesn't drag out. And they, like the Mile team, they do their best to they'll some sets will start 10 minutes before the hour. Some will start on the hour. Some will start 10 minutes after the hour. So
staggered,
kind of a staggered schedule, and whatnot. Obviously, I believe there's 200 venues,
something like that.
Or,
I believe,
no. I think it's 80 venues, 200 bands, and like 600 to 800 sets.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I did want to address actually one of my coworkers who's not originally from this area asked me a question about Mile of Music. One of the things she said to me, she goes, "Are there a lot of drunk people there?" She's like, "I went to Oktoberfest and it was just like wall-to-wall drunk people and things like that." And I told her, I'm like, when you go to something like this, there are certainly those people.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are like, here, I'll kind of phrase this differently. To me, correct me if you disagree, there's a couple different kinds of people that go to Mile of Music. There are the people that are like, you know what? I'm going to have my schedule. I'm going to go see this band, this band, this band at this time. And they're very organized and they're really primarily about the music. And then you got the people that are like, hey, I like music. I'm just going to wander around and I'm going to check stuff out. I'm going to see what's what and just kind of go with the flow. And then there are, of course, the people that are like, woo, something's going on in town. I'm going to get trashed.
Yep.
I saw a few people who at the end of the night were like, just barely standing, just like
Right.
wobbling. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, one of my friends, Eric Herm, he told
Shout
a
out
story
to Eric Herm because I went to high school with
Oh
them.
yeah. Herm, we'll get Herm on. Herm
He's a
would be
good dude.
We're Facebook friends. I've never met him, as far as I know.
Yeah.
That's funny. Eric was telling us a story. I believe it was after the Super Jam, which is like the last segment of. Actually, it's technically not part of Mile. Mile of Music pretty much officially ends at 5, and around 6:30, 6:45, few different Mile of Music all-stars from over the years, basically run by Mateo, who's he's the old drummer for Wild Adriatic now, is the drummer for Precious Metals, also sits in with a lot of other bands. He's from New York State. So he sits in with some, few other bands from that area. But they've the last, I think 3 years now, maybe even 4, or 4 miles, I should say. We did miss a year with COVID. But he's kind of run this, what they now call the Super Jam. And they just bring in any of the musicians that are left, that are still in town on Sunday and want to hang out. And they just kind of run it like as a karaoke style, and you just kind of go up and say, I'll play bass for this song. And this, because it's not technically part of Mile of Music, they can play covers, they can play each other's songs, whatever they kind of want to do. They just kind of get together, I think, and there's, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 musicians depending on the year. I've
never actually caught the Super Jam.
Yeah, it's been, I think, since pre-COVID. It was an epic night at Spats. I don't know. I think it started around, I want to say it started around 9 or 10 p.m. and I believe they finally shut us down around 1:30, and it was just one of the craziest experiences ever. Like, because it was a Super Jam.
So I want to point something out there, kind of going along with what I was talking about my coworker there. So if you notice the time, he said Mile of Music stops around 5 o'clock. So if you hit Mile of Music the day of, and you're out by 5 o'clock, your chances of dealing with super duper trashed, obnoxious people is significantly lower.
That's just 5 o'clock on the last day.
Yeah, that's only 5
Oh.
o'clock on Sunday. I think the last sets usually end around 12:30, quarter to 1, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I mean,
night.
the other thing about your coworker is like Appleton has repeatedly been found to be the most alcoholic city in America.
Or at least
So,
yes,
the top
but-
5,
anywhere,
depending on the year.
anywhere you go,
That's not the point,
you're
though.
gonna encounter
But
drunk people.
like we always talked about, though, like the music needs to be inclusive. So yes, people get to go out and have fun. They get to drink within reason.
I will stand next to somebody who drinks a Bud Light or a Miller. I mean, I'm inclusive.
But I don't want to be
don't
next
have
to the
to
guy
have-
that's going, woo, party, and spilling beer on me and
That
like
guy
throwing their
sucks.
arms up and blocking my view of the music and stuff like that. Those people are the worst.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
carry on, Steve. Sorry.
But also like you mentioned Oktoberfest. Like Oktoberfest, I think the percentage of people that are unruly sedated is probably 70 to 80% of the
It's
people.
high.
I mean,
Because
it is a beer
it's
drinking
a beer
festival.
drinking festival.
Yeah.
I mean, the people are there to drink, and there are bands, but most of them, I believe,
there
are
to
cover
drink, too.
bands.
Yeah.
Most of the bands are probably drunk too.
Just to give you an idea, when you are at Oktoberfest here in our area, there's a crunching sound when you walk around from all the
All
beer cups on the
yeah,
ground.
it's
and you're like
ridiculous.
elbow to elbow with people.
I've never done it. I've never gone.
I
to
went out there
Oktoberfest.
during the day like twice and to get food, honestly. Like that was my main thing. And I was like, I remember like 10:30, 11 o'clock, there's people just vomiting into garbage cans and things like that. And I'm just like,
So
this is
check
not
out
my
Oktoberfest.
So check
everybody.
out Oktoberfest in Appleton.
Yeah, I refuse to even go down anywhere. I think the last time I was at Oktoberfest, I was selling beer. I was volunteering for, I don't even remember if it was my kid's dance thing or a sports thing or
It
something.
was out of Steve's trunk. He was selling
and
beer.
it's like they stopped selling beer for I think like 6 o'clock.
I do
Something like that.
before
And
probably-
I was getting berated because I was like, there's a cop standing next to me, and I'm like, sorry, dude, the beer tent's closed. And like, fuck you, rah, rah, just like completely uncalled for language and attitude. It was just like, obviously, you've had enough beer. Like,
Yeah.
what's this last Bud Light really going to do for you, buddy?
Right.
Go buy one that's probably cheaper at the Bent Keg or the Chadwick's or wherever you would like to go, the bar.
Yeah.
Like whatever place. You can probably get a cheaper beer there because these are $8 for 10 ounces of Bud Light.
Go to Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got two good stories. So one time I happened to be there when they were reopening the streets for Oktoberfest. So literally they lined up street sweepers on one end of College Avenue. They get a line of police and cop cars, and they literally march from one end, forcing everybody off of the road. And then I remember a few times like people stumble out
And
into
they
the
do it at 45 miles an hour.
Yeah. No, it's like a slow. No. But I remember like people were running out in the road and stuff, and the cops would just grab people, slam them on the hood, cuff them, throw them in the back of the car and stuff like that. They do not mess around. And then the other one, I happened to work at our local ambulance service as one of the people kind of like on a side street behind the main road with an ambulance. And then there would be folks on bikes, and they'd go around and get people and bring them to me. And then I would take it from there. And I remember right when like that time was hitting where the road was about to open, there'd be people coming out of the back of buildings with beers in their hands and bottles, smashing them in the streets, stumbling around, puking and stuff like that. And I remember looking at my partner going, it was our time to go back. I'm like, I need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. So we'd haul butt back to headquarters. And then by the time we had driven, it was like 6-7 minutes to get back to headquarters. They already had like 7 or 8 calls down on the avenue of like drunk related things. And then the dispatcher was like, every year, the moment I cut you guys loose, it gets crazy. And I'm like, well, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, this doesn't happen at Mile of Music that
Yeah,
I've
there
ever
are a
witnessed.
few isolated incidents, but
Yeah,
like
that's
people,
nothing.
like you say, are primarily there for the music. I would say 60% of them are like mile professionals, so to speak. These people, like there's a great Mile app that you can build your own schedule on. I know a lot of people that like they will get on and they will do spreadsheets.
Yeah,
and
mostly
and
they're
whatnot.
about the music.
And or I just see people with rudimentary, just handwritten lists, like some of the older people,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, they pull out their list, and who's next, pa? Like, because it literally there. I really noticed this year how many elderly people I saw, like elderly couples there, and they were like rocking out to some pretty. Like, I'm not there to see too many of the lighter. Folk bands. I see a couple here and there, but usually I'm there for some of the rockin' shows. And I was very surprised at how many, we're talking people well over the age of 70 out, like with walkers and stuff, just sitting there, nodding their head, rocking out. I was like,
And
this
it's
is
beautiful.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, just like, because I think a lot of these people, they're just,
A lot of silver alerts happening
Yeah.
at Mile of Music.
Well, when I'm that age and there's a silver alert on me, that's where I'll be.
Yeah.
yeah, you can find me at the bar. But they're, I think a lot of it's their mobility might not be the best, so they just kind of find a venue that they like and just camp out,
Yeah.
which is one way to do it. It's a great way to just find bands. You just find your favorite venue, camp out, listen to, and you'll hear all sorts of, different genres. Some venues might be a little bit more rockin' than others, but not really.
Let's talk about some of these bands and venues, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So, what bands did you see on day one, Stu? Did you make it day one?
Day one, I was out, but so my experience was a little different this year. I was hired by my friends in the band Before Dawn to video all three of their performances, so that for myself required hauling gear and getting prepped during the day before. So I actually didn't see as many bands this year because I was focused on doing that. But Friday I did not. They didn't play, so I kind of made that my day to see as many of the bands as I could that I wanted to. So on the first day, the band I saw was Before Dawn, playing at the Brow House. That was a decent venue.
Yeah.
That was a decent venue.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a show there.
That was the first one I saw. Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but it's been years. But I don't know if I have. Actually, day 1A, which is Wednesday night, it's the unofficial start of Mile.
Okay.
Stu and I did catch just a few songs of these two bands. The Roving Scallywags, who are a Fox Valley
that's right.
local
We were at
based,
McFleshman's, yeah.
kind of Irish punk band. I shouldn't say punk, Irish rock band.
Yeah.
And they opened up for a band out of Troy, New York, at called Super 400, which is pretty good. Just good rock and roll. Caught a little bit of them. We were actually at McFleshman's that night for our local podcast co-op meeting. The three of us went out and went out. Shout out to Gary, if you happen to have made it this far into our episode. But Gary was kind of the host of that night's deal, and
He bought me some
bought
beers.
some beers, and
he has a great podcast. I've listened to it, and do you guys remember the name of it?
I do not.
Is it the Daily Pod? The Daily? This is actually like a total bonehead move on my part here. I can't think. But we
you
will
want to
come
know
back.
you want to know what's funny is I'm actually on the Appleton Podcast website right now, just trying to look.
Find it.
Just trying to look up the
people should
names.
know his podcast. It's a good one.
So yeah, it was kind of where we started Mile a little bit. Day one for me, I started out seeing some local friends of mine. The Traveling Suitcase, I saw just a duo set. It was supposed to be a Nicholas Raymond show, who Nicholas Raymond is the lead singer / drummer, Traveling Suitcase. But he had brought in his guitarist and his little drum set, and it's kind of a lessened drum set. It like literally has like a suitcase that is like built into a kick drum. It's kind of just a stripped down set. So started with that. Saw Girl Blue out of New York Straight. Heard a duo set with her husband. They played at one of the local breweries, Stone Arch. Then I saw Kiola, who I just mentioned a little bit ago. Kiola's out of Philadelphia. Another big band that hit this year, band that some of you might know out of. They're from the UK. Actually, no, I spoke. I'm not sure where they're from, but the Welshly Arms played Mile, and they've been getting some pretty big steam. They've had a couple of pretty big hits, on the radio the last few years. So it's kind of neat to see them and see what they do. They put on a pretty good show. Another couple of friends of mine, this band out of band out of Joplin, Missouri, Fox Royale.
They're good. I've seen those guys a few times.
Yeah,
Now, I didn't see them at all this mile, but they're a good show. I like them.
They're just fun energy, just indie pop rock. Like they're just a fun group of kids. They're just like super high energy, just fun songs, very danceable. Just always a crowd favorite. After that, I saw Jordan Kiola's with the full band Mo Loud and the Humble, also out of Philly. Saw that at one of the, actually I think it's the biggest venue, Jones Park in Appleton. It's got a capacity, I found out from Ian Thompson, who's a big part of Mile, capacity of 3,500 is what they can do at Jones Park. After that, I saw a new band to me, The Thing, out of Brooklyn, New York. There's a band that had played the Mile a couple of times, and I may have mentioned them here and there on this band, 87 Nights. They were out of, I believe, South Carolina. But their lead singer, Zane, had moved to New York, has this new project called The Thing. Fairly similar, just kind of high energy guitar rock, like kind of 70s jam rock kind of style.
Yeah, it's good.
So if you like that thing, check out The Thing. Then another Mile favorite, one of James' favorite bands that he's found through Mile Music, out of St. Louis, Radkey. Stu loves them as well. They're just a great group of kids. They're just old school punk rock. Like
the lead singer definitely at times sounds like Glenn Danzig.
Yeah, kind of a Misfits kind of vibe in a sense. Maybe a little bit like musically, maybe a little Dead Kennedys. And Youth Brigade kind of. Just I don't know. It's just kind of a dark kind of groovy rock kind of stuff. Like they're just I don't know. They're similarities to a lot of old school punk bands, but don't really sound
exactly
like anyone.
No,
and it just you can just tell
they
that
they just kind of fit
influenced by so many of the greats. So that was day one for me. So day two, I started out with another local band, Sinking Lessons.
That's a good name.
Yeah, they're a great
story of my life.
Great band. Levi Besaw is the front man for this project. Levi is he's one of the local sound guys in. He's got a couple other music projects he's been involved with over the years.
Yeah, I kind of see him around a lot. Yeah.
As far as I know, he's in Sinking Lessons and Cave Paintings, another local project. I'm not sure if he's got anything else in the works right now that he's working on.
I saw him do a solo thing at the 602 Club.
Oh, okay.
Is that the name of it, 602? I always get the address wrong.
Oh, yeah, the little apartment. Yep.
Yeah, here in town.
A
while back.
So Sinking Lessons, very, very emotive, just sad songs. Levi, even jokes about it, sorry these songs are so sad, but anytime I've ever seen him fill a room, people are just very intent because they're just intense songs that just really, really grab you. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you really like to feel emotion and whatnot,
I like to be sad.
Check these guys out. Then after that, I went over to one of my favorite local breweries, McFleshman's, and just happened upon my favorite find of this year's Mile, this band Wonky Tonk, out of Kentucky. I'm not exactly sure what town in Kentucky. Just kind of listening to them a little bit, and I talked to the lead singer a little bit, and she had talked on stage. She had talked about how she's always had a kind of a stage fright kind of thing going on, and her grandma had the same thing, and whenever her grandma would get on stage, she would put on sunglasses and kind of become a different persona. And she kind of developed this at a very young age, kind of I think maybe seeing her grandma and just having some of the same emotions. And she developed this persona of Wonky Tonk, and it really describes the music because it's very honky tonky, but there's a you could tell there's a big element of John Prine kind of kitschy lyrics and bubbly fun.
There's an old-fashioned element to it. I caught half her set the last day. She actually was playing right before Dawn.
Oh,
at
nice,
D2.
nice.
So I was actually glad I got because you told me about her.
Yeah, and every I forget the name of the band that she was traveling with as I'm doing air quotes. And just kind of talking to her, I talked to her a little bit after her set, and she's like, yeah, it's every iteration of my band, there's a different name for it. So if you just look up Wonky Tonk on Spotify and whatnot, you'll find her. And there's, like I said, different iterations, and Wonky Tonk and the blah blah blahs.
I don't know
for different albums, but
this is where she currently is, but she's originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
oh, okay, yeah,
Okay.
she's now based out of Kentucky, for what I understand.
Okay.
Well, this is like Seth. Come on, who was playing in your backyard?
Oh, Seth Anderson.
Seth Anderson.
Yep.
That he lives in Kentucky, but it's like right over the water from Cincinnati.
No, that's.
Am I making that up?
Yeah, no, Seth's Canadian, dude.
No, not Seth. I'm sorry. The other dude,
Sammy K.
Sammy K.
Yep.
Yeah. Sammy K. Yes. So I didn't actually realize that, because he talked about being in Kentucky, like that's where he lives. But then he was telling all these stories about Cincinnati.
Cincy, yeah.
But it's like
Covington.
Covington. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Nice,
Anyway,
nice.
sorry.
So,
Little segue.
So Wonky Tonk kind of blew me away. I only caught like the last probably 4 or 5 songs of that set, but I was like, wow, this is something. I got to try and catch these cats again. Went on to another one of my favorite local establishments, the Bent Keg. Saw 2 bands back to back there. Volk, who's a 2-piece female drummer, vocalist, dude on a lead guitar, crazy, just like countrified rock and roll, like pretty showboaty and fun, and like just like getting the crowd involved. Dude will come down and like walk around in the crowd and like do crazy guitar licks, and just they're just a fun band to see.
They're from
Nashville. Yep. I've been wanting to see those guys for years. They come up through the area quite often, and I've yet to see them somehow. Just hasn't happened. So I was glad I kind of ran into them. But then we were there for another local punk band called the Trash Pandas.
Trash Pandas, yeah. This is actually like one of the only times that Steve and my paths actually crossed at Mile was at this Trash Panda show. And dude, I gotta say, I thought they killed it. I've seen those guys once. I actually ran sound for a show they did at Vudette, but like, I'm going to say this about the Bent Keg too. Like,
they have a great sound
the
system.
The sound was awesome there this year, and like, Pandas, like they were really terrific. I enjoyed that show.
Yeah. Bent Keg has always been a favorite place of mine to see a band, because even though it's one of those kind of like shotgun style bars where they're really long but really narrow, their stage is so tall you can see them from just about anywhere in the bar.
I have some very fond memories when that was Mill Creek. That was a great place to see shows.
Yep. Yeah, it's that exact same setup. Just they have a new and way better sound system.
Decorated differently.
Yep.
But same place.
Yeah, the shows there sounded terrific this year.
So Trash Pandas just kill it. If you just love like high energy, like punk rock with a little metal leaning, and actually even some of their new stuff I think is even more metal leaning
I would
than
agree.
when I was first introduced to these guys. But still, nonetheless, just they're great, man. Like their lead singer Lacey she's just a force to be reckoned with. Real fun to watch.
Yeah, she puts on a good show.
Very animated singer, just like she's fun as hell. After that, went next door to this place called Chadwick's, which I think is one of my favorite local venues for Mile. Sound was good, the crowd was good, like the stage setup. It's a little small in there, but it worked. Great lights. But one of my favorite thing about it is that they had all the TVs that line the bar. Because it's, again, one of those kind of shotgun style bars where they're they're only 15 feet wide and 100 feet long. So all along behind the bar where all the TVs are, they actually had a camera set up so you could just see the stage from wherever you were in the bar. And I was like, that's really cool.
Nice.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
I didn't really notice that any other places that I've been to. So props to Chadwick's on setting that up. There went down to Houdini Plaza, which is like kind of like the central, I guess, park of College Avenue area.
I got a question. Is this plaza where all the magic happens?
It's where a lot of the magic happens.
Well, it all disappeared. That's the.
Yeah. Well, that's all. Yeah, kind of a little quick weird segue. So Harry Houdini lived in Appleton. Some
He grew
people
up
say
here.
he
It was
grew
like-
up here. He was born and
it was
raised.
He was
briefly-
not born here. He was
Yeah.
born overseas, but grew up here.
So, so Appleton's really taken on the whole Houdini thing. We got a Houdini museum, yada yada yada. So they named a plaza after him. So that's where this next band, the Stews, who I was stoked to see again this year. They're I believe out of South Carolina as well. I could be mistaken, but I believe they're from that side of the country. And they're just like Stews. I don't even know how to explain them. They're just good. They're just good rock and roll. Great songwriting, great guitar playing. Like do some cool super jams on the guitar, and
It's just rock and roll, but you like it.
yes, they're very good. Very good.
It's only rock and roll.
After that, headed down to that bigger venue, Jones Park, to see a couple bands. Another big band that's been making a lot of headway out of the UK, the Heavy Heavy, played a set there on their way through town. And then after that, a band called the Vagabonds out of Nashville, kind of southern rock kind of band. If you're into that, check these guys out. They're just great songwriting. Daniel Allen, he's just a great songwriter. All good musicians. Put on just one hell of a show. That was day 2. What did you have for
Well, we
day
got
2?
how many more days of this?
2 more.
2 more days.
They get shorter. I kind of blew my wad on day 1 and 2.
Well, day 2 was kind of my like Friday. That was my big day to go out and see bands. So I saw that Trash Panda show. Like I already talked about that. I really enjoyed that. I was walking around with my camera too, because I don't know. I'm a lot more comfortable if I can like take pictures of the show. So and with Steve's daughter Sid, who is also like, I mean, everywhere taking photos this year. She's an up and coming local photographer.
Yeah,
and,
she was getting it. That's for damn sure.
She was working it. She was working it hard. But I checked out a band called Pepper Said that I saw last year a couple of times, and I enjoy them. They are also on the poppier side of like indie rock, but they're just a lot of fun, and they sound great. And their lead singer Pepper she's got a great voice, puts on a good show. So
Did you say that your wife was like one of her favorite bands?
Yeah,
too,
we went to last year. So anyway, I was glad I got that they're still together, and I got a chance to see them. I enjoyed that. Traveling Suitcase, which Steve mentioned, he's talked about him a lot, and I was surprised, even though I'd heard a little bit of him on CD. Just what a good rock show that was. That was maybe one of my 2 favorite finds for me this year, was seeing Traveling Suitcase. I didn't know that Nicholas Raymond played the drums. He plays the hell out of those drums
yes,
while
he
he's
does.
singing. He makes Don Henley look like a slacker. But no, that was just a really cool show, man. Those guys were high energy and had kind of their own sound going. So I actually just wound up seeing mostly a lot of local bands this year. I saw Mo Louders from out of town. Steve's talked him up a bunch, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go check them out. And I saw the thing. My other favorite band that I saw was this band Palm Ghosts, and that is if you like 80s goth pop kind of stuff, like if you like Peter Murphy and you like Sisters of Mercy and maybe even stuff that's poppier like Psychedelic Furs, New Order, you should check these guys out. That's the one LP I bought was theirs, and just they have they have got their sound down, and everybody there really dug it. I got to meet them actually the day before with my friends Before Dawn.
Oh, okay.
Rob and Kate, and they were just super nice guys. I'm really glad I got to check out that show, because that was probably my other favorite show I saw.
Didn't Before Dawn play with Palm Ghost at Fox River House a couple years back?
No, they played with Gold, I think. Well, maybe they played with Palm Ghost. I could be wrong. I might have missed a show that they did. Also, Before Dawn, their show at the Bent Keg, I saw them 3 times, and I was videoing them. I thought they killed it at the Bent Keg. Like, and I was like, staring at a screen on a camera and walking around, doing that.
Just annoying everybody that was trying to watch the band.
They're trying to watch the band. I'm up on stage, like shoving my camera in their faces. But like, I thought they killed it that show. They were playing with a drummer for the first time since they've been here. This guy Nate, and I thought he did a terrific job. It kind of brought out this and check them out again if you like, synth pop, slightly gothy, dancey stuff. They're a lot of fun. They did
ton of fun.
Yeah,
and they're super nice guys.
Yeah, I love them. So, but yeah, they put on a great show there. So that was actually mostly what I saw. I caught a little bit of Volk and a little bit of Wonky Tonk
nice.
as well.
Awesome.
But that was mostly it for me. I spent a lot of time at home charging batteries, making sure I had
That's what we're calling it these days, folks.
Yeah.
Charging batteries.
Charging batteries, yeah. So
Is that drinking?
yeah.
So for me, day 3, I slept in on day 3. I don't think I got out of bed till like 10:30, 11.
He's all tuckered out.
And I just kind of laid around, and me and the wife went down at 5:30 is when we got there. Maybe a little bit, maybe 5 o'clock. Went down, caught the full set of Wonky Tonk at Chadwick's. Then went over, saw the Before Dawn show at the Bent Keg with Stu, which was like we said, awesome. I saw The Thing for the 3rd time at Spats. I caught most of their. I was just kind of like if you can imagine a music festival where, like I said, there's 45-minute sets, and sometimes some of these shows are like it's a 10-minute walk to get to them, and you only have a little bit of time before the venue might fill up and whatnot. So like I said, like I mentioned, like scheduling is it's a thing
art
with this. So I was going down to another end, or to the far end of what we call the mile, quote unquote, to see a couple of bands at Emmett's, which is like a big outdoor parking lot of one of the local bars here, and basically across the street from them is another bigger restaurant / bar called Spats, and they have in their little parking lot area they set up an outdoor stage, and they always have a pretty fun stage there. It's always a pretty good crowd and whatnot. So I was like, well, I'm going down to Emmett's. We can quick catch some of this the Thing. Because I had only seen them. I'd seen them at the Bar, which is a pretty tiny little club, or a little bar. It's more of a sports bar with just a little corner stage. And then at Chadwick's, which is pretty tiny as well. So this is a little bit more of a bigger stage. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 300-400 people can fit in that parking lot, something like that. So just a little bit more of a just that bigger show kind of energy. I just kind of wanted to check them out there. So I caught most of that set there, and then we wandered across the street for what a lot of people in my circle were calling the Joplin Takeover. That band Fox Royale, and then the other band Me Like Bees from Joplin as well, played back-to-back at Emmett's. And that's a pretty big stage. I believe it's
Me Like Bees, we've got... I don't know, was it Sunday morning? You and I got together and did an interview with them.
Yep, we got a little interview coming for you guys.
Not this episode. We're gonna, I think, release that on its own.
Very soon.
But yeah, they were very kind enough to sit down with us and talk to Steve about the vinyl release of their their first album?
Yeah, it's their first
Ides.
full-length album, The Ides.
Yeah.
This year happens to be the 10th anniversary of it, so they had never previously released it on vinyl, so they decided as a kind of a 10th anniversary gift to their fans and even to themselves in a sense, they decided they really wanted to put this on vinyl.
Yeah, so they talked to us about that. So we'll be look forward to that coming up sometime. I don't know, in a week and a half, something like that. We'll have that up.
I think we could probably do a little sooner.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So yep.
And then of course at the time of this recording, Steve, are there still copies of that album available?
Yeah, I believe there are.
Sounds good. So if you do check those guys out on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you stream your music from, and you're like, this is great, make sure you support the band. Pick up their physical copy of their media.
Yeah.
Cool band, good guys.
So saw Fox Royale, and then Me Like Bees put on a great set. This place, Emmett's, was pretty much packed. It's got a capacity of around 800 people, so it's a pretty good sized show. Just a good, Saturday night party. Weather was just fantastic. Just a great time. And then I had so much fun on that short night that on Sunday I decided I'm going to go down. I'm just doing one show. And I went down and saw my boys, Me Like Bees. Saw them at the big venue, Jones Park, They played from like, I think, 3:50 to like 4:45, something like that. Kind of the last set at or one of the last sets of the official day of music, but the last set at Jones Park.
Earlier in the show, I mentioned something about seeing bands unintentionally, but seeing them a lot. And I got to say, I'm actually surprised I did not see Christopher Gold in the New Old Things at all. I've
I run
seen
into
them a
him in
bunch of
town
times.
more than I do ever
Yeah.
see him play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I've interacted with him briefly on our podcast page. I don't think he would know who I am.
I don't
but
think
like,
he'd know who I am either.
but
But
like,
I
I've-
see him around too. He's easy to spot.
yeah,
But,
like I see him at Eroding Winds. I see him other places that I can't mention.
But they're a reliably good band. I mean, like I said, like I've almost never gone to see them, but like they're just playing a show, and if there's other bands there I'm going to see. But like
great powerhouse.
they are, man. They're terrific, and never disappointed.
Yeah,
so
like,
I was
I
actually
mean-
surprised when Mile was over. I was like, holy shit! Like I didn't see Chris Gold at all.
Feels wrong
yeah,
to not see
Christopher
him.
Gold. He's got a great catalog of solo stuff, just kind of him and a guitar.
He's got a podcast as well.
They do a podcast, and the name of it escapes me right now.
He does a radio show too.
Oh yeah,
on
he
the
does
app here
a
in
weekly
town.
radio spot on I believe it's 91.1.
Yep.
And he just does. I believe it's like an hour, and he just plays some songs and tells some
Yeah,
stories.
he posts his playlist, and
Yeah.
he plays some cool stuff, a
Yeah,
variety of
dude's got a
things.
great eclectic like stuff.
I've never caught the show, but I read the playlist.
Yeah, I want to. We got to get him on here because he's also a huge vinyl collector and just a collector of things. Just
Which you can see on his YouTube channel because he often has that in the background, his wall of records.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, speaking of other podcasts, James, I believe, found the Gary's podcast. I feel like we gotta give him a shout out. People
so
check out.
we are a member of a Appleton podcast collective. We recently all three of us made it down to a monthly group meetup, and this was our first time.
Everybody there was super cool.
Yeah.
it was a good eclectic group.
So want to give a big
But
shout.
Gary bought the beers.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, Gary.
Gary's my favorite.
Gary Arntz, that is ARNDT, of the podcast Everything Everywhere. My understanding puts out a substantial amount of content in bite-sized pieces for you, and not
Daily.
like
Yeah,
daily,
daily
not
I believe
like
it's like
us,
a daily 10-minute segment,
Something like that. Yeah.
not like 2-hour episodes like us.
No. He keeps it tight.
He keeps
So
it
for
tight.
those of you with ADHD that can't stand us, check out Gary.
Yeah, so of course, as always, we want to give Gary a special thanks for buying us alcohol.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of
or
really
anybody else
Yeah,
that would
please,
want
we'll
to buy
be
us
back.
alcohol.
And,
We will give you
we'll
total
be
props
thirsty.
as well.
Yeah.
So there's lots of other really great, mental health, well-being, podcasts. There's, stories about, different fandoms and pop culture.
Our friend Jess Hasley was there too. She's got a podcast.
I did not get a chance to talk to Jess a whole lot. So do you remember the name of Jess's podcast?
Nope.
Yeah.
It was
We'll be
super
more
hard to hear in
prepared
there.
next time,
There was
yeah.
literally the two bands that I mentioned before were playing outside, and the place was extraordinarily busy because of that, and just
I think
everybody's
next time
excited.
it'll
It was
be
like
easier,
Mile of Music Eve.
Yeah.
as
we were
call it
meeting
here.
a lot of new people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was.
So, yeah.
So
So
we
we're
apologize
shy.
if we don't remember the names of your podcasts. We can maybe be
In
a
the
little bit
future,
more
we'll
prepared.
discuss this.
and David Kaslow was not there because we wanted to meet him, and he, I'm sure, would have kept things very organized.
Yes.
Put all that pressure
He
on
could
him.
have even taught us something
Probably.
because obviously we didn't learn shit.
Right, because here we are, different episodes, still disorganized. So, but yeah, great bunch of podcasts on there. If you're looking for try something new out, go check those guys out.
All right, man. Well, I think that probably wraps it up for this week.
Yeah, at least it should.
Yeah.
I could talk all week about
Thanks
Mile.
for sticking with us, everybody.
Yeah, so next time we'll get Steve some beer, and he'll really just talk your ear off.
Great.
So last but not least, if you like what we're doing here, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Tell your friends. Word of mouth is really how people learn about us. We want to grow the show because we like doing it, but much like a herpes infection, we're not going to go away very easily.
Not too easily.
Not
I've
too
been
easy.
likened to a lot of weird things in my day, but that's probably the grossest.
Yeah, probably. So keep spinning, keep checking out the music, support your local bands, shop local when you're buying stuff, and then most importantly, just always remember.
there's always more vinyl.
There's always more vinyl. Thank you.